President Trump was president. If you believe that, you should be allowed to drive. That's silly. That's dangerously wrong. The border is beyond broken. You have wars in Ukraine. You have the Mideast.
Hi guys, welcome back to XCOM 2.
Enforcing the law, Joe Biden has been beyond reckless. He's taken a parole statute that's limited in nature and it's given 1 million people parole, when on average Trump and Biden's administration gave 5,600 people parole. Laken Riley's murderer was paroled because they had lack of capacity in El Paso. They let him out under the parole statute because they were full. There's nothing in the statute that says you can go because you're full, and he killed this lady. On and on and on. All of these women who've been raped and murdered have one thing in common. The people that killed them, raped them, and murdered them were in our custody and let go, I think, illegally. So Joe Biden better hope and pray there's presidential immunity, because when he allowed the killer of Laken Riley to be released on parole because lack of capacity, I think he's subject not only to lawsuit, but criminal prosecution if there's not presidential immunity.
As I talked about with Senator Coons, that's a small number of people. I mean, obviously, most people who are coming here, they want a better life, they want opportunity. The ACLU, in praising this latest move by the president, allowing people who are here, they're married to American citizens, said this: the policy keeps committed, loving families together, which strengthens all of our communities. It's popular with voters. Backed by the president is the type of humane and common sense action that has made America stronger. The vice president said the same thing. We want to keep families that already exist together.
From the ACLU point of view, that's true. From the average American's point of view, what Biden did is a disaster. He took a can of gasoline and he poured it on fire. He unilaterally gave 500,000 people legal status, calling it parole in place. There's nothing in our law. He's the most lawless president ever on immigration, Biden is. There's nothing in our law called parole in place. There's nothing in our law allows him to forgive student loans. Out there, college provides forgiving student loans, and you're paying for them. It's beyond dangerous. So the idea is spreading around the world. Biden just gave amnesty illegally to 500,000 people. Maybe I should keep coming. The reason the border is broken is Biden chose to overturn every policy Trump had. We had the most secure border in December 2020, the most lawless border now because of policy changes by Biden. And it's not a small deal, it's a big deal. The largest number of people on the terrorist watch list came in last year, only to be exceeded this year. I've never been more worried about a 9/11 than I am now, originating from a broken border started by a terrible decision to withdraw in Afghanistan. So the world is on fire, folks, and Biden's not going to fix it.
Okay, so why haven't you guys fixed it? That's what he says.
You do.
Right over here in the Capitol, that you guys know the problem, you agree there's a problem, and you haven't fixed it.
I am. I was in the game debate. The bill they introduced was a joke when it came to parole. Biden has paroled 1 million people in this country illegally, in my view. Trump and Obama presidency's 5,600 people paroled based on 2 limited factors. The bill had nothing to do with parole. It allowed 5,000 people a day to come. That just incentivizes more illegal immigration. The border was secure. The wall was almost finished, and Joe Biden issued 96 executive orders changing remain in Mexico. Folks, the reason we're overrun now is because of the policy choices of Joe Biden. He could fix this without any congressional action. He chooses not to because he's an open borders president.
Okay, I will say for the record, because we've had your friend Senator Langford on the show who said that 5,000, we should hit that in a week. Everything closes down, nobody after that. You guys can debate that.
Get 4,999 every day.
Okay, well, let's talk about foreign policy, because there's a lot brewing between the White House and Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. Ahead of his speech coming here on Capitol Hill, Politico reports this. The headline, no one knows what he's going to say. White House fears are mounting about this visit. Senator Chris Murphy said he's only about himself, and they're worried that he's going to come here and criticize our American president for not supporting them enough. They've been very public about that. Should you welcome a foreign leader to come speak on the floor in the House when you know possibly they're going to go after our sitting president?
This is just not a foreign leader. It is the leader of Israel, our best friend in the region, one of our best friends in the world. Israel is surrounded by Islamic extremists who want to cut their throats literally. And here's what you need to understand. All those people that want to kill Israel want to kill you. Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. So I will welcome him here. Here's what bothers me the most. Slow-walking weapons to Israel makes the war go on longer. We need to be all in helping Israel, give them the weapons they need to win a war they can't afford to lose. Hamas says they'll keep doing it again and again and again until they destroy it. I believe Hamas. The great Satan's Iran, who's activating Hezbollah. So the administration tried to use weapons in Ukraine and Israel to micromanage wars. They tried to give Ukraine just enough to stay in the fight, not to win. They've been slow on artillery, slow on F-16, slow on tanks. Now they're slow with Israel. But I got a call just a few minutes ago. The Israelis say they see some progress, but I promise you this, when we come back, there will be oversight on the weapons delivery systems to Israel. Congress has voted in a bipartisan way to give Israel the bombs and the missiles they need to win a war they can't afford to lose. And we will be looking over Biden's shoulder to see if he's honoring the commitments made by Congress. The fact we're having this debate emboldens Hamas. The fact that we will not sanction the International Criminal Court for charging the Israeli Prime Minister and Defense Minister as war criminals is outrageous. Every time Biden does this, it juices up the terrorists. They see this as a separation between Israel and the United States, and it makes the war go on longer, and it's aiding and abetting the enemy even though they didn't want to.
Keep us updated on those phone calls. Good to see you. Thanks for coming with us live. All right, up next, we're going to take a deep dive in all the biggest, thorniest cases at the Supreme Court. They're coming this week within days. Our expert legal panel is up next here on Capitol Hill.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
What shots do you get?
With 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for human health, and it should complete with 30 grams of protein.
Wow, that was planned.
Sherry, a City client, uses City's financial expertise to help drive its growth and keep its supply chain moving, so more pet parents can get everything they need right when they need it, keeping more pets and families happy. For the love of moving our clients forward, for the love of progress. During an asthma attack, every second feels like an eternity. Primatene Mist works fast. It's clinically shown to open airways quickly. Get the #1 FDA-approved over-the-counter asthma inhaler. Primatene Mist. Breathe easy again.
At St. Jude, we don't care who cures cancer. We just need to advance the cure. It's a bold initiative to try and bump cure rates all around the world, but we should. It is our commitment. We need to do this.
It's hard to run a business when you're done. Make it easier on yourself. With Shopify, you can have your inventory, payments, and customers, and sync across all the places you sell. Start your journey with a free trial today. Sometimes John wrestles with falling asleep, so he takes ZQL, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, and wakes up feeling like himself. Get the rest to be your best with non-habit-forming ZQL. Better days start with ZQL nights.
I used to think I couldn't.
Forget so many bad guys. Utilizing wonder. Take the first step. Go down, brave reading awesome story program. I was working with their dogs and reading stories to them. Up there, it's very big. They're all over me. Day to day. Thanks for your support. That's their product program.
We're marching to the beat of a different drum, on a mission to support veterans, to have fun, and to welcome everyone to our ranks. You don't have to be a veteran to join the Legion. And as a member, you'll join thousands of others serving our veterans, our communities, and our country. Oh yeah, and our Veteran Perks program will save you thousands on shopping, dining, products, and services across the country. Join us at legion.ca.
to you live from the Supreme Court with 14 cases left to be decided in the coming week. At the top of nearly every watch list is a decision about President Trump's assertion that he has immunity, shielding him from criminal liability in special counsel Jack Smith's case against him, citing actions President Trump took during the final days of his presidency. There's also a case involving a January 6th defendant, whether the Justice Department wrongly charged him under a specific obstruction statute that was also used to charge hundreds of other January 6th defendants and President Trump too. There's also another abortion case, a case testing the boundaries of authority for federal agencies, another one that will impact whether cities and states can ban hopeless encampments, and many more. Joining me now to discuss the court's biggest week of the year, Fox News contributor and George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley, also the author of a brand new book, The Indispensable Right, Free Speech in an Age of Rage, and former Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Tom Dupree. Gentlemen, good to see you again. Different setting.
A field trip.
It is a field trip to where all the action is going to be this week. So let's start with the immunity case, because there are those who feel like it should have been delivered long ago. An opinion piece in the New York Times says something's rotten about how long it's taken the justices. This court has lost the benefit of the doubt for myriad reasons, including its willingness to act quickly in cases that benefit Republican interests. Tom, they say there's something going on here.
I totally disagree with that, Shannon. It looks quiet this morning, but there's a beehive of activity behind those marble walls. They're finishing up the immunity decision and the other key decisions we're waiting for. On the immunity decision, look, the Supreme Court is going to be writing for the ages. This is a case that is not just going to resolve or address the cases against President Trump. It's going to be a rule of constitutional law that will affect all United States presidents going forward. They want to get it right. And I, for one, am not going to fault them if they take an extra week or an extra 2 weeks to make sure that they write a thorough, correct, accurate, constitutionally sound opinion.
Yeah, and you referenced this statement from Justice Gorsuch during the arguments. He said, "We are writing a rule for the ages." That takes time.
It does, and people need to understand is that this is a critical line between the president and the rest of the world, particularly Congress and the courts. There are some issues still remaining in the Constitution that are
Two mutons.
one of those, and the court
Guys are
is shying away
phineas.
from sort of tackling this issue. They now have to, and that means they have to get it right. And what you heard from the justices on both sides of the ideological spectrum, I thought was really serious efforts to try to get it right. Not that they agreed, but unlike the media, unlike the commentators, those 9 justices had a civil and one of the best discussions I've ever heard in the Supreme Court as they tried to probe where this line is. And none of the justices seemed that satisfied. Well, let me put it this way. The court as a whole did feel satisfied with the extreme positions of either the Trump team or the lower court. They seem to be looking for something more nuanced.
Yeah, and the whole conversation about whether if they gave the sweeping immunity that the Trump team would like, the worries about allowing somebody to take office knowing they could do anything with no repercussions at all. It sounds like they're going to find some level of immunity and then have to decide what were the official acts that would get some of that protection. And that could take some time. It could kick this thing back to the lower court, extending the whole case. Okay, the other big one that we're waiting on, well, there are many, it depends on your opinion, but January 6th, there's a defendant who brought his claim saying this obstruction statute that they used was not right. Now, it applied to hundreds of others. It's part of the case against President Trump. I want to read the statute. It says, whoever corruptly obstructs, influences, or impedes any official proceeding or attempts to do so shall be fined or imprisoned. Jonathan, that gets to what happened on January 6th.
Well, there is a huge amount at stake here because obstruction of an official proceeding was the common denominator running through hundreds of cases. The Department of Justice is like a gambler in Vegas that would only bet on red.
Damn it.
This is the red chip, the red slot in roulette. And if it's eliminated, all bets are off. And I think the court very well could narrow this because the underlying statute was designed after the Enron case and dealt with the destruction of documents. And the lower court, the trial court, said, I don't think this fits. The D.C. Circuit said it's close enough for us. Clearly, many of the justices were having trouble with extending this law this far. If they narrow this interpretation, it will not only knock out hundreds of criminal counts, it will knock out counts pending against President Trump.
Yeah, the Jack Smith is brought. Okay, now, Tom and I have a favorite. We're the walking nerds of this whole thing. There's this case that talks about Chevron deference, and what it does, it gives enormous power to federal agencies where you would say these are the experts, the bureaucrats who know the subject matter best, to make decisions about how federal regulations impact everything from the car you drive, the phone you use, the shampoo, how you use your land, The Center for American Progress said this about that case. The stakes cannot be higher. The outcome could affect nearly every policy area: healthcare, civil rights, workers' rights, education, environmental justice, financial regulations.
For once, I agree with the Center for American Progress. This is an important and fascinating case. And look, you put your finger on it. This
I knew I shouldn't have brought them out there.
affect the balance of power in our government and in our society. The question basically is, if you have a law that involves a federal agency's regulatory power and that law is ambiguous or open to debate, who gets to say what the law means? Is it the federal bureaucrats or is it a judge? Most people would say it's a judge. In fact, in our nation's earliest famous constitutional law case, Marbury versus Madison, the Supreme Court said it's the power of the courts to say what the law is. And I anticipate the United States Supreme Court in this case is going to reset that balance and say that in that situation, it's the power of the courts, not the federal bureaucrats, to say what the law really means.
We shall know maybe as early as Wednesday. In the meantime, there are these other federal cases, of course, playing out with the president. The one dealing with the documents and the storage and the handling of these classified documents down at Mar-a-Lago. The judge there, Aileen Cannon, was appointed by President Trump. And the New York Times had an interesting piece this week said that when she was assigned a case, there were other judges who went to her to sort of pressure her, like, you don't have the experience for this, maybe you shouldn't take this case. The New York Times says this. Her critics have suggested that she could be in over her head in the tank for Mr. Trump or both.
It's an outrageous hit piece against this judge. This is the same newspaper that went into vapors when anybody questioned Judge Merchan and his selection, which was not random. He was put on that case and ended up ruling heavily for the prosecution in ways that many of us believe are reversible errors. And yet you have this piece in the New York Times attacking Cannon, who, by the way, has ruled on major issues against the Trump team. And in my view, the thing that is most disturbing is the suggestion that other judges may have spoken to the New York Times to sort of poison the well for their colleague. Judge Cannon has worked this case evenly. She has made a number of decisions that go both ways. I think that she has been really quite an impressive judge on this. She's trying to get it right. But this idea that because she's a Trump appointee, she's under suspicion, is precisely what they criticized President Trump for saying on judges in his cases. So the hypocrisy is perfectly overdone.
Somebody tells me we'll be bugging you guys as we wait Wednesday, the next opinion day. Okay, up next, the Biden and Trump campaigns build up to Thursday's big CNN presidential debate. Our Sunday panel will join us for a sneak peek and react to brand new polls, Fox polls, some surprising results.
Here's to getting better things.
Here's to feed these two every Thursday.
Help fuel today with Boost Tide Protein. Complete nutrition you need without the stuff you don't. So, here's to Boost.
Always dry scoop before you run. Listen to me. Hot dog diet got me shredded.
It's time we listen to science. One a day is formulated with key nutrients to support whole body health. One a day. Science that matters.
This is our last chance to help save thousands of Holocaust survivors who are suffering in the former Soviet Union today. The needs that these forgotten Jews have are something beyond anything you can imagine.
Have you eaten this morning?
I ate the carrot, so I ate half of it yesterday, and this is what she ate in 2 days, 1 carrot. Please pray for me.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews began this ministry to help elderly Jews living in horrible poverty around the world. We urgently need your gift of $25 now to help provide one survival food box with all of the foods they critically need for their diet for 1 month. When you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives.
It breaks my heart to know that there are Holocaust survivors who suffer to this very day. Now, with pensions of less than $2 per day, they live in some of the poorest conditions imaginable.
I believe in God, but I sometimes feel maybe He forgot me. Perhaps you can tell my story, and I will find a matching soul that will understand. I face hunger again.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now to help rush one survival food box to a Holocaust survivor. When you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives.
This is what God wants from us. Just feed the hungry. If you hear God's voice, I'm asking you to act now. Do it when it's on your heart. Pray that they'll know in their final months that they're not alone.
Welcome back to our show, our special Fox News Sunday live from the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, Chad Pergram, our senior congressional correspondent, is joining us to talk about the tension that is existing on the Hill right now with respect to the court and beyond.
Well, we have a geography lesson here for you first. We're at the Supreme Court. The Library of Congress is over here. The U.S. Capitol is right over here. The Capitol Visitor Center is underground. The Library of Congress and the Capitol itself, they're connected underground by a tunnel. But you know the Supreme Court used to meet inside the Capitol until 1935. They moved across the street, and that's a good thing because Democrats right now are mad at the Supreme Court. Democrats escalating attacks on conservative Supreme Court justices.
Justice Alito is an insurrectionist sympathizer, joined by his right-wing buddy, Clarence Thomas.
Democrats accuse Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito of questionable ethics. Thomas for traveling on lavish getaways on the dimes of GOP megadonors. Alito for controversial flags flying at his homes.
The legacy of the Roberts Court will be one of unchecked corruption.
Thomas's lawyer says ethics rules don't require him to report such trips so long as donors don't have business before the court. Alito says his wife flew the flags. Republicans say the Democrats' complaints are camouflage for what really needles the left.
Democrats don't like the fact that the justices are making certain decisions.
One Democrat demands Chief Justice John Roberts penalize justices.
He can say that Justice Alito no longer writes majority opinion and no longer presides over the Senate.
Republicans appalled by the ultimatums.
They want the Supreme Court to become subservient to the Congress.
Republicans say the attacks are just politics.
This is an election year and they're trying to make much ado about nothing.
The Democrats don't seem to disagree when it comes to an electoral strategy.
Democrats, in election after election after election, since the fall of Roe v. Wade in 2022, are winning.
So Democrats have three opponents this fall: Republicans, former President Trump, and the Supreme Court. Shannon?
All right, our thanks to Chad Pergram. Now for our Sunday group, we're joining us just down the phone from the back to Fox News Washington Bureau. USA Today White House correspondent Francesca Chambers, townhall.com editor and Fox News contributor Katie, founder and chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition Ralph Reed, and 2025 campaign surrogate Kevin Walling. Hello, guys. I hope you're enjoying the air conditioning. So glad to have you with us. All right, let's start here. There are warnings from Democrats who are worried about what President Biden has to do when he shows up on Thursday at the CNN presidential debate. Here's Van Jones.
If Biden goes out there and messes up, it's game over. If he walks out there and a week later he's lower in the polls, it's panic in the party.
But Francesca, if he shows up and has a good night, that could be a huge boost too.
Well, the Biden campaign, Shannon, is already saying that they don't expect there to be a major jump in the polls or an effect really at all in the near term. They see this as more of an opportunity to organize and get their supporters engaged in this election. Indeed, they are saying in a memo just this morning again that when you have these two candidates who have already been well defined, they're the same two candidates who ran last time, that much of the electorate is already locked in, and it's a small group of voters who are going to ultimately decide this election.
So we know that debate prep is different for these two as well. President Biden at Camp David with advisors spending days getting ready for this. Our Alexis McAdams, reporter for Fox, was with President Trump last night on Saturday and asked him about debate prep, and he said this is it, getting out, answering questions, talking to people. Reuters talked to someone who cautioned that maybe is not the best approach. Alex Schroeder, who's a professor of journalism at Northeastern University, says there's some risk in the less formal approach for Trump, who, like Biden, has not debated in 4 years. Quote, debating is a very specific thing. It doesn't really pay to just show up. Ralph.
Well, I certainly don't disagree with that, but I think it's pretty an even game because neither one of these candidates has debated in the last 4 years. I mean, Biden really didn't have a primary. Trump was so far ahead that he made a decision not to participate in the primary debate. So they're both in a situation where they didn't get seasoned.
Off the fucking ledge with you.
Yes, I was with the president, meaning Trump, former President Trump, yesterday. He was at our Faith and Freedom Conference. This guy's in the zone. He's ready. And by the way, I expect Joe Biden to be ready. I mean, the idea that he's not going to be able to get up for a moment this critical, that is going to be a defining inflection point in this campaign and could well determine whether or not he's voted out of office or not. They're going to make sure he's ready, and I think it's going to be game on for both of these candidates Thursday night.
And it will be interesting to see if they go heavier on policy or heavily on personality, because we know that they're going to talk about character, fitness for office, all of these kinds of things. But our new Fox News polling this week, when we asked what is this year's presidential election mostly about, issues and who can do a better job, so more the policy wing, that was 59%. Character and fitness to serve was 29%. So Kevin, how should that factor into how both of the sides look at going at this thing? Because we know there are going to be some personal jabs. I don't think these two will be able to resist.
There certainly will be, Shannon, but I'm hopeful that it will be a substantive debate on the issues. Of course, it's a different format than in previous cycles with that mute button that we talked about, with the fact that there's no audience. So I certainly think both of these individuals are going to bring their A game. To Ralph's point, this is the first time they've actually been in the same space since the last debate 4 years ago. So certainly I think it's going to, again, focus on these issues. Of course, the timing of the Supreme Court decisions that you just talked about might weigh heavily in terms of the conversation on Thursday night. But that Fox News polling actually shows some wind at the president's sails. The fact that now he's leading the former president by 2 points, the first time we've seen a poll where the President Biden is leading the former president since last October. And more importantly, he's leading with independents by 9 points in that poll. To Francesca's point, with so many people's minds made up, those independents are going to be who actually makes the next president take office next January.
Yeah, a lot of good news trending the White House's way, the president's way in that polling, as you said. Him with a 50 to 48 point lead head to head when you look at these two matching up nationally. Now, there are several key states that we keep paying attention to because they're really going to make all the difference. Now, in Pennsylvania, the Wall Street Journal talks about the fact that there are an average of polls that give Trump a slight edge there, that he is doing things like he did last night. He went into Philadelphia, a place that is very blue and not traditionally a place that would be a stronghold or a winning place for Trump. And we would guess that's probably going to be the same thing this time around. But he's going to different constituencies and places that he thinks that he can move some ground. Now, in that Wall Street Journal piece, they say this. In a CNN exit poll in 2020, 92% of Black Pennsylvania voters polled before they voted for Mr. Trump. Only 7% before they voted for Mr. Trump. This month's Marist survey found that the president's Black support has fallen to 68%, while the former president's share has been circled to 23%. That year's polling that we had in Virginia a couple weeks ago as well, showing triple the Black support for President Trump this time around.
Well, and in the polling that we've done at USA Today of Black voters in those battleground states, what it does show is that President Biden is facing a potential problem of attrition that could make a difference for him. But they're not necessarily going to go to Trump. One of the problems he's facing is that they could just stay home in the election altogether. And so he needs to get those voters re-energized, and not just in those states, but in other states, such as Georgia as well. There's a major concern among Democrats about Black voters not showing up in these southern states in the Sun Belt.
All right, Francesca and the panel, thank you very much. Stay there. Up next, the suspected killer of a Maryland mom finally arrested. Authorities say he entered the U.S. illegally last year.
3 days till we get the rogue operative. That's going to be a good one, too.
The tragedies fueling attacks on the president's immigration policies. Our panel's going to debate that next.
I know this might seem out of the blue, but I was wondering if you might pray with me real quick. Lord, you know what's on our hearts. You know where we struggle. You know where we need to be pushed.
Help us give it all to you, the good, the bad. Help us turn to you in everything we do. I invite you to join me in more prayer on Halloween. Stay praying.
I think you will find our results have exceeded expectations.
Dad, what's with your toenail?
Oh, that, I'm not sure.
It's a nail fungus infection. That's gross.
That's nothing.
It's contagious. You can even spread it to other people.
Don't worry about it. Go away on its own.
No, it won't go away on its own. It's an infection. You need a prescription.
Nail fungus is a contagious infection. At the first signs, show it to your doctor and ask if Jublia is right for you. Jublia is a prescription medicine used to treat toenail fungus. Its most common side effects include grown toenail, application site redness, itching, swelling, burning, or stinging, blisters, and pain. Jublia is recognized by the ADMA. Most commercially insured patients will pay as little as $0 copay. Go to JubliaRx.com.
I don't got a good feeling on this one.
Vision works. See the difference.
New concerns over Biden in China.
I've never seen a president so close to an enemy government.
Peter Schweizer has the latest. Plus, Charles Payne talks the economy on Life, Liberty, and Levin.
I used to think it couldn't.
This is a very special place, very special.
Save it, just in case.
I'd like to welcome someone here very soon.
But I got a bad feeling on this one, boys.
Clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
The program helped me a lot because I met other kids who were going through the same goals as me. So I was able to relate and find somewhere where I could fit. Thanks to the support of United Way, I'm able to achieve my dreams and become a doctor in the future.
Is responsible for the criminal act. The criminal who committed this heinous act should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law and forcefully so.
And as far as I'm concerned, the administration has the blood of Rachel Warren from their
That was Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro asked about the murder of Maryland mom Rachel Warren. The suspect is an illegal migrant who crossed the border in 2023. And that was Warren's half-sister, you heard there, Erin, blaming the Biden administration for Rachel's death. We are back now with the panel. Katie, I'm going to start with you. You're the editor-in-chief over at townhall.com. And I noted this piece by Guy Benson. He said, leftists, how
Save this.
draw attention to all those violent crimes committed by illegal aliens. We're told that this is
I'll catch you guys next time, all right? Peace.
90% of people who come here, but for them being here, though, those crimes would not have been committed on these American victims.
Well, we can say that it's a tiny percentage, but the fact is that there are millions of people in this country that the Biden administration has no idea who they are, where they came from, what their records are, and their home country.